Hello everyone, nice to see you again. Today we're going to be looking at some new stuff in Java. We're going to be looking at what are methods. I guess that's a question, so I'll give it a question mark. In fact, we already have a method that we're used to seeing every time we come into Eclipse or whatever IDE you're using, and it's the main method. And we need a main method for every Java program that we run. Today we're going to look at other kinds of methods and why we need them. Let's just start with another very basic problem. I'm just going to set up a little program which is going to calculate or tell me the height of the tallest girl in the school. So I'm going to set up an integer array here called heights of girls, and I'm going to just populate this very quickly using this method. One girl is 145 centimeters, one girl is 167 centimeters, one girl is 156 centimeters, and we've got a very tall girl in the school who's 178 centimeters. It's tremendous. And I'm just going to loop through that array of heights of girls and try and find the tallest one. So while I'm doing that, of course, let's just set up another little integer variable called, I'll call it tallest. And at the beginning of the program, I'm just going to set that to 0. Then we're going to set up a for loop. We're going to set up a loop variable. I'm just going to use I, which is very standard. For int I equals 0 to I is less than heights of girls dot length. Whoops. I plus plus. So we'll increment I by 1 every time we go round the loop. And if heights of girls I is greater than tallest, then we will set tallest to be that value. So we're always going to try and grab the biggest number in the array. Now if this is unclear to you, we've already covered this earlier in the course, and you need to take some time to figure out what this is all about, because this is pretty elementary stuff. So we've got an array. We're going to loop through the array, and we're going to see if we can find a value in the array which is greater than tallest. So at the beginning of the loop, tallest is 0. The first value is 145. So is 145 greater than 0? Yes, it is. So tallest will become 145. Then we move on to the next one, 167. Is 167 greater than 145? Yes, it is. So tallest will become 167. Then we move on to the next one. Is 156 greater than 167? Well, no, it isn't. So we'll just go back in around the loop again, etc., etc. And just to show that that's working, let's just do a system.out.print, and I'm just going to we don't need any text. I'm just going to print out tallest. And let's see if that works. And there you go. There's the value, 178. Now, let's imagine that we have another integer array called height of boys. It seems quite logical. And it's just a completely different array of the boys in our school. So there aren't many boys in the school, but we do have some pretty tall boys, and there's this guy in grade 12 who's 182 centimeters. He really is great in the basketball team, and he is the tallest boy in our school. But we want our computer program to tell us that. Now, because the name of this array is different from the name of this array, we can't use this for loop, because this for loop is focusing on heights of girls. So really what I want to do is copy all that, paste it there, and change the names. Heights of boys, heights of boys, heights of boys. And I really should, after the girls for loop has finished, I should reset tallest to be 0 before I start looking at the boys array. Okay? So let's just do this. I'm just going to show the tallest. So we'll look at the girls first, and then I'll print out the tallest from the girls, and then we'll reset tallest to 0, and then we'll take care of the boys, and we'll print out the boys' tallest as well. So let's see if that works. So we've got 178, I should have done print ln, but we've got 178 for the girls, which is correct, and we've got 182 for the boys, which is correct. But look at this code. It's all very inefficient, isn't it? We're using the same algorithm for the girls and the same algorithm for the boys. So wouldn't it be great if we had a magical little piece of code which could just take this array, do the calculation, and return the highest number? And that same function would take this array, find the highest number, and return it. Well, that's what we're going to do today. So I'm going to delete all of this code, and we're just going to start from scratch so I can kind of explain it as clearly as I can. What I'm going to do outside my main method, I'm going to create a new method, which is public static int, I'll explain that in a minute, get tallest. This is the name of my method. Now what does my method need to work? It needs an integer array. So I'm going to tell this method, in order to work, you need an integer array. Now we don't know what it's going to be called. It could be called anything, so we'll just make up a name for this, and we'll call it array, height array. Let's just call it height array. So this method will take an integer array, which I'm calling height array, and it's going to do the same thing that we looked at before. It's going to set up a variable, set it to 0, create a for loop, I equals 0 to I is less than height array dot length I plus plus. And it's going to say if height array I is greater than tallest equals height array. Same as before. Height array I. So this is a method, and this method wants an integer array. It needs an integer array to work. Without this integer array, it can't do anything. Once it gets the integer array, it goes through a for loop to find out what is the biggest number in that array. And it returns an integer value. This is really this value here. It's going to return the tallest value. And we'll look at how that works in a minute. So there's the end of the method. There's the end of the for loop. That's the end of the for loop. So when the for loop finishes, we're going to return the integer value tallest. Now, in our main program, this is our main program here. It starts here and it finishes here. We've already got two arrays set up, and I'm simply going to do this. System.out.println get tallest. I'm going to call this method, and I'm going to pass it this integer array, heights of girls. Okay? And I'm going to do the same thing for heights of boys. System.out.println get tallest. I'm going to use the same method to help me find this value, but this time I'm going to pass it a different array. Remember, get tallest needs an array, an integer array, and I'm giving it. I'm passing it. Heights of boys. This is my main program. It's 4 lines long now. The first 2 lines set up 2 integer arrays. The second 2 lines call a method called getTallest, and they pass a parameter. The parameter is an integer array. The first parameter here is the heights of girls integer array, and when we call the getTallest method again, this time we pass it heights of boys, which is another integer array. So if we run this program, what's going to happen? Well, there you go. And I could easily do this. Set up another integer array in my main program called heights of teachers. Stick in some different data. Let's say we've got a really tall teacher from the United States of America and a really short teacher from Scotland. And we've got some other teachers as well. And it doesn't matter how long these arrays are, because our lovely method getTallest will always find the length of the array. Okay? So if we just create another system.out.print heights of teachers this time, I'm going to pass it a new parameter. It's still an integer array. It has to be an integer array because getTallest is expecting an integer array. So I'm passing it an integer array, and this is returning to the system.out.print function. It's returning an integer. That's what's going to be displayed after this method works its magic. And if I run my program, that's what we get. So go on then, set that up in your own Java development environment and see if you can figure out what's going on.